Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to do Chapter 7 Modern Period from your second PUC Indian History textbook. Topics covered in this chapter are 7.1 Advent of Europeans, Establishment of British Supremacy in India, 7.2 First War of Indian Independence, 7.3 Impact of British Rule on Economy and Education. Now let's begin with 7.1, that is Advent of Europeans and British Supremacy. First paragraph, Advent of Europeans in India. In the late 15th and early 16th century, European powers like the Portuguese, Dutch, French, and English arrived in India primarily for trade. Initially, they set up trading posts, but gradually political control became their main aim. The Portuguese established Goa, the Dutch had Surat and Malabar ports, while the French set up Pondicherry and Chandannagar. For an example, Vasco da Gama arrival in Calicut in 1498 marked the beginning of European influence in India. Students, from this we learn trade often leads to cultural exchange but also opens doors to political influence. The next topic is Anglo-French rivalry and Carnatic wars. The British and French East India companies competed for supremacy in India. Their rivalry led to Carnatic wars in 18th century. Both sides allied with local rulers to gain control of territories in South India. For an example, Robert Clive supported the British and played a key role in strengthening British influence in the region. From this, we learn alliances and strategy in conflicts can decide the fate of nation. The next one is Battle of Plassey, 1757. The Battle of Plassey was a turning point as Sirajud-Dowlah, the Nawab of Bengal, was defeated by the British East India Company led by Robert Clive, with support from some disloyal Indian nobles. This gave the British control over Bengal's revenue and administration. For an example, Mir Jafar, the general of Nawab, betrayed him, enabling British victory. From this, we learn internal division weaken nations, making them vulnerable to external forces. The next part is Battle of Buxar 1764. The Battle of Buxar further consolidated British power. The company defeated the combined forces of Shuja-ud-Dawla, Awadh, Mir Qasim, Bengal, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. The British gained Diwani rights, meaning they could collect revenue in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. For an example, this revenue system laid the foundation of British economic control in India. From this, we learn economic power is crucial for political dominance. The next part is Anglo-Mysore War 1769 to 1799. The British faced resistance from Mysore under rulers like Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. Four Anglo-Mysore War took place, ending with the death of Tipu Sultan in 1799, bringing Mysore under British influence. For an example, Tipu Sultan's use of rockets against the British was an early form of modern warfare technology. Students, from this we learn resistance may delay but not always prevent domination. Innovation in warfare can inspire future generation. The next part is subsidiary alliances and doctrine of lapse. Lord Wellesley introduced the subsidiary alliances, forcing Indian rulers to keep British troops and surrender control over foreign policy. Lord Dalhousie doctrine of lapse allowed the British to annex states without a male heir. For an example, states like Satara, Jhansi, and Nagpur were annexed under these policies. Students, from this we learn clever administration policies can expand control without direct war. The next part is Anglo-Maratha Wars 1775 to 1818. The British fought three Anglo-Maratha wars. After defeating Maratha rulers, they controlled large part of India. This marked the decline of Maratha power and the rise of British British political supremacy. For an example, the Third Anglo-Maratha War ended with the defeat of Peshwa Baji Rao II in 1818. Students, from this we learn persistence in strategy and exploiting weaknesses ensures victory. The next part is establishment of British supremacy in India. By the early 19th century, the British East India Company had defeated major powers, the Mughal, Marathas, Mysore, and regional kingdoms. With administrative control, revenue rights, and a strong army, the British established supremacy over India. For an example, from trading post to empire, Bengal, Bombay, Madras presidencies were fully under British control. Students, from this we learn understanding the rise of colonial power teaches us the importance of unity, strategy, and vigilance. Now let's move on to the next part, that is 7.2, First War of Indian Independence. Now let's begin. First War of Indian Independence 1857. The First War of Indian Independence, also called the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, was a major uprising against the British East India Company's rule. It marked the beginning of India's struggle for independence on a national scale. The revolt began in Meerut in May 1857 and quickly spread to other parts of India. Students, from this we learn the revolt showed the anger and frustration of Indian soldiers and civilians against exploitative British policies. It laid the foundation for India's future nationalist movements. The next part is causes of revolt. Political causes. The annexation policies like the doctrine of lapse and the expansion of British territories created resentment among rulers and nobility. Economic cause, heavy taxation, destruction of traditional industries, and exploitation of peasants created widespread economic hardship. The next part is social and religious causes. British interference in Indian social and religious practices caused fear and anger. The introduction of cartridges greased with cow and pig fat offended Hindu and Muslim soldiers. The next part is immediate trigger. The revolt started in Meerut on 10th May 1857 when Indian soldiers refused to use new cartridges. This act of defiance quickly escalated into widespread rebellions. The next part is major centers of the revolt. The rebellion spread to Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Jhansi, and other regions. Leaders like Mangal Pandey, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, Begum Hazrat Mahal, and Nana Sahib played prominent roles. Students, from this we learn it was not just a military revolt but also a social and political movement that inspired unity among diverse groups against the British. Outcome of the revolt. The revolt was eventually suppressed by British, but it led to the end of East India's Company rule. In 1858, India came under direct British crown control. Impact. Students, now let's see what is the impact. The revolt exposed the weaknesses of the British but also highlighted the need for organized nationalist effort. It also led to major changes in the army, administration, and policies by the British. Students, by this we learn the First War of Indian Independence was a turning point in India's history. It taught future generations the importance of unity, courage, and organized resistance against oppression. Now let's move on to 7.3, that is impact of British rule on economy and education. Now let's begin. The British rule in India brought major changes in the economic and educational systems. While they modernized some aspects, their policies often exploited India's resources and people. Understanding these impacts help us see why Indians later demanded independence. The next part is economic impact agriculture. The British imposed heavy taxes and land revenue system like the zamindari and royalty systems. Farmers were forced to grow cash crops like indigo, cotton, or afim instead of food crops. Famines became frequent and millions suffered. Students, from this we learn British policies prioritized their profit over Indian welfare, which caused widespread poverty and famine in India. The next part is economic impact. Traditional industries like handloom, weaving, pottery, and metalwork declined due to competition with cheap British manufactured goods. Small scale and cottage industries suffered, leading to unemployment. Students, from this we learn colonial economic policies disrupted India's self sustaining industries and increased dependence on Britain. The next part is economic impact, trade, and infrastructure. While the British built railways, roads, and telegraphs, these were mainly to serve their own trade and administration. Raw materials were exported to Britain and finished goods imported back, creating one way economic benefit. Students, from this we learn infrastructure development was a double edged sword. It modernized India but primarily benefited the British economy. The next part is educational impact, introduction to Western education. The British introduced modern education in English, which created a new class of educated Indians. Universities were established in Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras in 1857. This broke the monopoly of traditional education system like Sanskrit, Persian, and Arabic. Students, from this we learn Western education created awareness, critical thinking, and political consciousness among Indians. The next part is educational impact, social awareness. The new education inspired social reforms and nationalist ideas. Leaders like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra, Vidyasagar, and other promoted education for women and backward classes. Students, from this we learn education became a tool for social change and awakening nationalism. The next part is overall impact. While British policies exploited India economically, they also inadvertently laid the foundations for modern education, infrastructure, and political awareness. Indians became aware of their rights and began to question colonial rule. Students, now let's see what is the moral of this topic. The British rule had mixed impact, exploitation, and modernization went hand in hand. The economic hardship fueled anger and resistance, while education empowered Indians to fight for independence.